I've reported him to Crafton. I hope he gets the lawsuit he deserves. This feels like defamation and misinformation. I will be reporting this video. 1, you're ignorant. 2, you're an EA shill. You're a waste of human sperm. These are just a few of the lovely comments people left on my last video about the life simulation game Inzoi. And for the life of me, I can't figure out what it was that set him off. Was it my critique of Inzoi's influencer marketing strategy, or my honest thoughts about the current state of the game? Regardless, I think we can safely say they're pressed. Press, 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 press. But you know what gets me pressed? Overpaying for video games. Thankfully, today's sponsor, Instant Gaming, is here to help. In this age of rising video game prices, sites like Instant Gaming give players a safe and easy way to save money on video games. And the best part is, you don't have to break the bank to get your hands on them. Also, they give me money. But really though, Instant Gaming is a service I believe in, and it's where I buy a lot of my own games. So if you want to save a few dollars yourself, head over to Instant Gaming using the link in the description. The truth is, I'm in love with the idea of Inzoi. The hyper-realism, the open world, the customization. In theory, it's the kind of game I could sink hundreds of hours into. However, it's the reality of Inzoi that I can't quite seem to get on board with. But before we talk about Inzoi the game, I think we need to have an honest conversation about Inzoi the community. As a random guy who makes videos on the internet, I've gotten a few angry comments here and there. You would be surprised how many people spend their days going around the internet defending multi-billion-dollar game companies. I just want to be very clear about my intentions. I am holding this game to the same standards as I would any game made by a multi-billion-dollar game company, early access or not. So when I see an $11 billion company like Crafton deliver a mediocre product to players, a product that costs money, I will not praise that. I'm not here to protect game companies or your favorite video game, and I will absolutely not give praise to something that I believe is undeserving of praise. There are more than enough giddy, happy-go-lucky content creators who will give you the never-ending positivity you're looking for. That is not me. So as I say on my Tinder profile, manage your expectations. But regarding the Inzoi community itself, this behavior feels eerily familiar to me. The toxic positivity, the extreme defensiveness, the mob mentality, the tribalism, the making up lies about people, all because they criticized a video game. Where on earth have I seen that before? If Inzoi fans truly want this game to be better than The Sims as they've claimed it is, all over the internet and in my comments, how about you start by acting normal and not losing your shit when someone shares valid criticism? How about you start by not leaving hundreds of disparaging comments on Reddit and Discord about people who are merely expressing their opinions about a video game? And to be clear, this is not just about me. Last year, before Inzoi was even released, Sims YouTuber Lil Simsy mentioned Inzoi in a live stream and said she was reluctant to talk about the game due to its use of generative AI.
I don't want to talk about Inzoi too much. And they also have generative AI in the game, and I'm really not into that either. Lots of bad vibes about that to me.
How did Inzoi fans respond? Well, they proceeded to make entire Reddit posts filled with hundreds of angry comments about her. Now, I myself have been critical of Lil Simsy in the past, and I by no means think any influencer is above critique, but she's not deceiving anyone here. She's not spreading misinformation or lying. She didn't say anything factually incorrect. She's just giving her opinion about the game, and that is okay. If she doesn't want to play Inzoi because it uses generative AI, which is something a lot of other people have said as well, that is her choice. But the issue here is the way the Inzoi community responded to this with so much anger. Even if there was a little chance in her brain that maybe she would play Inzoi in the future, which would have been great for the game as the largest Sims YouTuber, after she saw the way Inzoi fans responded to this statement, there's no way in hell she's gonna play this game. These fans think they're helping the game by going around and defending it, when in actuality, they're hurting it. Here's another example. There's this YouTuber January Stories that I've been watching for a while. I actually found him through his Inzoi videos, which are great, but he's covered other games as well. And I like the guy because he always gives very even-keeled, rational perspective perspectives when he's talking about games. But a few weeks back, he made a video discussing Inzoi's early access DLC and how that entire concept is kind of weird, especially when you add in the fact that the DLC itself isn't even finished.
사실 인조이 팀이 론칭하고 실제 시간이 한 많은 5개월 정도 이제 지난 건데 그 시간을 아주 완벽하게 만들지 못했었는데
Yeah, they made an early access DLC for an early access game. That's a choice. Anyway, when he brought this up in a video, he received comments from Inzoi fans accusing him of clickbaiting, of spreading misinformation, and people were literally just angry that he wasn't being positive enough for them.
You done lost your damn mind.
It's wild to me that I actually have to say this, but you should not be so invested in a video game that you get personally offended on the game's behalf when someone shares a criticism of it. What really disappoints me is that when Inzoi was announced, I kind of thought this competition would improve the life simulation genre, including the community of players. And Inzoi fans had a chance to be better than the Sims community, to be more welcoming, less rabid, more open to different opinions and perspectives, less defensive. But after covering this game for over a year, it's very clear to me that this community suffers from the exact same problems as The Sims on the tapestry that is the Sims community. If you find the section of players where toxic positivity runs rampant and where players shout "send love to the devs" all while they send hate and insults to people who give valid criticism, Inzoi fans are cut from that same cloth. So let's talk about the game itself. Now, when it comes to Inzoi, I completely understand there's a lot of people who want the game to succeed and who believe strongly in the game's potential. But we've seen so many games crash and burn before they even had full releases, or they were released and then shut down 6 months later. Happens a lot with crafting games, by the way. So as much as we could focus on the potential for what Inzoi could be, it really only makes sense to speak on what the game is right now. I did spend a couple hours exploring Inzoi's new update and DLC, and to be honest with you, the first thing I was confronted with was a litany of bugs. To give you some examples, the game crashed within 10 minutes of opening it. Then my Zoi got stuck on a balcony that she wasn't even supposed to be able to enter. So I had to reload my save, but when I did, she was suddenly an elder, which destroyed my plans. Because she was engaged at the time and I wanted to get married, go to Chihaya on her honeymoon, get pregnant, and then leave her husband to be with an exotic local. Isn't that the American dream?
Okay.
Anyway, that plan was ruined because she's now ancient. I also had this weird bug where when I traveled back to my house, all the doors were locked. It was like I didn't even own the house anymore, even though on the map it showed that it was mine. There was also a guy in there making weird intercourse sounds. He would not stop moaning. Looking back, I actually think maybe he was dying, which is sad and all, but like, do you have to do that in my house? There was also an adult wandering around the house that the game thought was a child.
Alora Ben Laura? Quivet Clay.
I'm definitely gonna have nightmares about this. At this point, I just gave up and made a new save where I started in Chihaya. And here's my thoughts on this DLC. The environmental design is great. Chihaya looks amazing. Nobody's really surprised by that. And after exploring this DLC and what came with it, I'm sad to say that that is where the positives end for me. Performance for me was hit or miss. I have a 4060, 32 gigs of RAM, I have an i9 CPU. So my specs are like medium high range, but I did have a crash and my game also froze altogether at one point. And look, a few bugs are expected. I do feel like the ones I was having with my original save were a little bit excessive, but all of this I can look past. What I can't ignore is Inzoi's biggest flaw, and that is still the lack of entertaining gameplay. Again, this is all my opinion, but guys, this game is not fun to play. And it's painful to say that it suffers from some of the exact same problems I have with The Sims 4. Namely, the characters are lifeless as hell, it's visually appealing, but the environments are sterile. There's surface level gameplay. There's an absence of challenge and consequence. And in addition, there's also a whole host of problems that are kind of unique to Inzoi. And I totally get reviews of the game that have called it soulless because there's a complete void of any semblance of personality or charm or character in this game. The truth is, Inzoi's visuals have always done most of the heavy lifting. That's not a compliment. Many of the gameplay features that came with this new update, such as the gardening and the mining, feel so half-baked. It seems like they just added them as an afterthought, which explains why they feel so mundane. And while I do find the new city of Chihaya itself to be cool, it has the exact same problems as all the other cities in the game, which is that they feel lifeless and hollow. I'm not saying they're empty, I'm saying they're lifeless. There's a difference. Even with the new venues they've added to the existing cities, nothing about these locations is appealing. You go to a cafe, order some food from a kiosk, and then sit down and eat it.
Okay.
But it's the soullessness of Inzoi that really does it for me, and that feeling of emptiness is on full display when it comes to the Zois themselves. If anybody was around when I was a Sims 3 channel, the character gameplay in The Sims 3 is incredible. And having good characters with vibrant personalities who engage in interesting social interactions is paramount to any life sim. The characters in The Sims 3 had so many quirks and eccentricities, and every sim felt unique. And they felt so real that you could actually put yourself in their shoes. It sounds weird to say, but you kind of knew who they were. And this is what made the interactions between Sims and The Sims 3 so entertaining, because they all acted differently. They actually had real personalities. But with Inzoi, even this character that I've spent 10 hours playing with feels like a complete stranger to me.
Die kenne ich nicht.
I even based her off of one of the characters in my old Sims 3 series, but even having this backstory that I created for this character, I never once felt that she had any depth to her personality, or that there's anything special or unique or quirky or different about her. This is definitely not the only problem with the game, and I do agree with others that they have to add things like multitasking and group interactions, but bro, the characters are so god-awful in Inzoi. There is something seriously lacking when it comes to the Zois and their personalities or lack thereof, and consequently the social interactions suffer immensely because of this. I actually do believe that they wanted this game to be a dollhouse simulator and not a life simulation game, because there is an overwhelming absence of life. So if you're a Sims 4 fan, you could very well love this game. And if you like spending time making characters and playing dress up, Inzoi's probably great for you. If you're someone who's looking for a legitimate life simulation game a la Sims 2 or Sims 3, this is not the game for you. And frankly, I've seen some people compare this game to The Sims 3. I don't know what world of delusion people are living in, but it is nothing of the sort. Leading up to Inzoi's release, I think a lot of people got so excited and hyped themselves up for this game. They went around calling it the Sims Killer. They compared it to GTA. They saw the pretty graphics and the aesthetic package that was presented to them in trailers, and they believed that this game was going to be something miraculous, something special, a true next generation Sims game, the life sim savior we've all been waiting for. But Inzoi has fallen far short of those expectations. Everyone is aware that the game is in early access, okay? And in 3 to 4 years, Inzoi could be great. But what worries me is that the foundation should already be here. Do you guys remember what happened with The Sims 4? How it was released in this really bare bones, shallow, lifeless state, and how they've just kept stacking DLC on top of the base to make it seem better, but it's still inherently lacking. That's the exact same energy I'm getting with Inzoi. It is missing the basic components that are fundamental to a life simulation game. And the fact that Crafton and the Inzoi team prioritize creating a DLC, which, as a reminder, the DLC is also not finished. If you don't think that's a red flag, you probably have a full-on Kool-Aid mustache right now. The priorities are askew, and I don't care what their excuses are, they could have made significant progress to the core user experience in these last 5 months, but instead, they decided to focus on creating a shallow, incomplete DLC. And for anyone who thinks I'm being way too harsh on Inzoi, the early access game, this is an 80, 90, maybe 100-person development team working for an $11 billion company. Deadass, if they have enough money to pay off a bunch of influencers and to advertise the game across social media, if they can do all that, then I think we, the consumers, can expect a little bit more from this early access game. But you know what? A lot of life sim players will eat up anything they're served without question. Fortunately though, some of us have taste.
Lot of blessings piling up that I ain't even wished for. None left over for y'all. I'm locking the fridge door at the crib, cutting hits. I read through the catalog, came to conclusion, no one's touching this. Just finished the maiden voyage, hopping off the Mayflower. Set up shot to kill them off, whatever it take. Pal, sing the boats, I'm at home. I'm selfish with the goals, I could give a fuck who try and get